Hello, hello, hello. I'm back. We are doing a new series for the channel. It is called A Month in Review. So we're going to look back at the month that just passed. As of right now, I started this show. This is the first episode. It's going to be on the MLS show. Those nice Baz and Pet asked me if I wanted to do it for them for Orlando. So obviously, their idea, great to have me. So, hello, all MLS show viewers who don't know typically what I do, but I'm MLS's only fan TV, and I have a Orlando City blogger on board with me for this series. His name is Ty Rothschild, and he is Paramore Pundits. So, say hello, Ty.
How's it going, guys?
And Ty, just real quick, can you tell the MLS show viewers how you can be found on social media?
If you want to follow me at Par Pundits, and that's PARPUNDITS, we're an Orlando City blog. We're purely analytical content, so we're paying a lot of attention to what the team is doing on the pitch, and that's what we focus on weekly with our blog.
And Ty does a little weekly train individually each week, goes to all the training sessions and stuff. And, I really enjoy that about your blog. No one else really seems to cover the training sessions and offers to answer questions. So I think that that's great. But we'll get into the month in review. So March was I'm going to call it a decent month for Orlando City. Ty might disagree. He'll let us know. But, we had 2 draws and a win, 1 away and 2 at home. So we got the win away, and then we got the 2 draws at home. The first game was we were down all game versus Real Salt Lake, and we came back in the last 6 minutes and got 2 goals in extra time. The last one was by Winter. In the second game, we were up a man for about an hour, and we just weren't able to break down Chicago's defense. They held their form really well, and they snuck out of Orlando with a draw. We dominated possession. We really should have won that game. And our third game in March was away versus NYCFC. We won 1-0, and in that game, we snuck a point out of NYCFC in a game where I really don't think we should have won. So, Ty, I'm going to turn it over to you. What is before you go into each individual game, just a big picture-wise, how do you feel about the first 3 games in March?
The first 3 games in March I'm going to call a complete success, and I'll tell you why. One, if you can go a month in the MLS without losing a game, it's a success. And even though we could have won against Chicago, I think the way we started out against Real Salt Lake, we could have won again. We went up a man early in the match, and we could have seen a better result than what we did. But we persevered. We left Real with a point, and same with Chicago. We didn't lose, and we didn't falter too much, which is a really good thing in MLS. New York City, I thought was an unbelievable performance. It's hard going into that stadium and getting a win. The field dimensions are really far off, and as Aurelian Collin told me when I was speaking to him right before the game, he goes, listen, this is a different field. It's not easy to go in there. You think that you have a lot of room behind you as a defender, and you really don't. So when you're playing in Yankee Stadium, the back line, the center backs, even the left and right back, they have to be very focused, and they always have to be on point, because one little mistake and a player like David Villa is going to score a goal. And we were able to get out of there with 3 points. And what's amazing about that is New York City held 65% possession almost during the match, and that's incredible that the back line, especially in the D-mids, could hold a clean sheet. And Joe Bendik, let's talk about Joe Bendik. What a great performance he had. And I really think that he has the potential to be one of the better goalkeepers in the league this season. So obviously we have a long time to play out, but for the month of March, I'm going to call this a complete success for Orlando City.
And I'll go into the games individually, starting at Real Salt Lake. They almost filled the bowl again, so I think that that's a success. And I think I didn't get to personally watch very much of the match. I was at a wedding that night, and then my DVR really messed up my recording. So I saw, some of it. But what I gathered was we looked pretty limp. And then, well, like you said, we went down a man, and then we got a red. And then we looked limp throughout. And then in the last 6 minutes, we came back and stormed 2 goals. Winters was just him and his tireless work effort. Ty, what are your thoughts about Real Salt Lake?
Real Salt Lake, they played very good. Go ahead.
I meant more about the game, not them as a team.
Okay, I understand. but going back to them, when they came into this match against Orlando City, their biggest thing was to take the crowd out of the game, and they did. Trying to do that, they did a good job. However, it's not always so simple when you're playing in the Citrus Bowl with how great the supporters are. So you're not playing the crowd out of the game, and obviously the supporters did a great job. And as Breck Shea and Coach he said after the game, they're the ones who kind of pushed us to victory. It's tough when you're at home in a game that has as much hype as Real Salt Lake did. It's going down 2-0 and you're in the final minutes. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to find that last bit of energy, and they were able to do that. The game started off. We held pretty good possession. We got forward very well, and kind of similar to the problems we had at the beginning of last season. We were able to get to the final third, and we just weren't able to finish. And again, that's something that's going to take time to do this season. It's not that simple. You're just not going to go in there and score 4 or 5 goals a match to start the season. The team has to get to know each other a little better. There's a different formation and everything. And I think, like I said, I think they play very well against Real Salt Lake. And it speaks to the energy and the focus and just the effort of the team in general. Being in extra time and coming away with 2 goals, that's just incredible. And it's not one player in particular. It's not the fans by themselves. It was a complete collective effort. When you looked at players like Breck Shea, especially Breck Shea, he just kept pushing forward, and he tried as hard as he could, and he never gave up. Same with Adrian Venter. And that's why we left Real Salt Lake with a result, because we could have very easily left with a 2-0 defeat, and that wouldn't have been a good way to start the season. But they kept trying, they pushed forward, and that just speaks to the team as a whole.
And then in our second home game was Chicago, and Chicago, they got a new coach, they got some new players, and it was just seemed to be the same old tricks from Chicago. Our team can never, ever stop David Accam. I think he scored in 4 games in a row against us. I don't know, you can blame it on whichever center back you want to blame the goal on. I mean, there's differing opinions. So, that's how they scored. We got a nice goal as well. Draw at home, up a man. I mean, I really, really wasn't happy with the Chicago game. I liked your positive take on it when you did your overview just a second ago, when you talked about how not losing in the first month in the MLS is really good, and I really appreciate your positiveness, because that's great. But I was really unhappy about the Chicago result. I think we should win at home, and I think we should absolutely win when we're up a man. So Chicago's defense just stayed so compact, and we just really didn't break it down. And that's just my general thoughts about the Chicago game. What about yours?
Again, we could have got a better result, against Chicago. We very well could have left with 3 points. It was tough. I believe Kyle Larin hit the post once. I mean, we should have got 3 points, but it's a different game sometimes, and it's not always that simple just to go and get 3 points, even if you're up a man, because just the dynamics of the game and how Chicago lined up tactically, it was going to be very hard to break them down regardless. And to your point about being able to win at home, yeah, absolutely. The Citrus Bowl this year and going into the new stadium next year will have everything it needs to become a fortress. You got the supporters, and opposing teams don't want to come here. You have to deal with the heat and the humidity, and then deal with the supporters, and it's not fun for they appreciate the environment, but it's not always fun for opposing teams to come in here. And yes, absolutely, we should be winning at home, and I do believe we will. When it comes to the goal that we gave up to David Accam, it's very hard to deal with a player like that who is as speedy as he is, because I don't think tactically they did anything too terrible to give away that goal. I think it was a great ball played over the top, and Accam just burned past Seb Hines. And, it's one of those things that you wish could have went a little bit differently, but unfortunately it didn't. Seb Hines, and you saw how fast he was running back. Hines was running as fast as he possibly could, and Accam just blew past him, and it was a one-timer past Bendick. And again, it's something that happens. I mean, you're not going every game, just not giving up goals. And to that point, I think the back line has done very, very well this season so far. I think they have had a lot of chemistry and a lot of cohesion, and I think we saw that. We'll talk about New York in a second, but I think we really saw that in New York. And again, like I said, as the season progresses, the goals are going to start coming. Kevin Molina is going to get back in rhythm. I mean, he's kind of been a little hesitant in the final third to shoot the ball. And we saw that a little bit last season. But once Kaká gets back in there, Nocerino, starts finding himself a little bit more on the pitch. And, even when Baptista gets in here, we're going to see a different team with a stronger dynamic on the attack. They're going to get forward better and they're going to score goals. But like I said, right now it's patience. And that's what we have to understand with that Chicago game. We just need patience going in to the rest of the season.
All right, and I led the other two, and you picked up after. So I'll let you start about your thoughts on New York, and then I'll pick up after.
Like I just mentioned a few moments ago, going into New York, it is not a fun place to play for opposing teams because plain and simple, we're playing in a baseball stadium. So the dimensions are off. Trying to stay onside when you're going forward, it's a little bit different because just the way the dimensions of the field are. So, and going back to what Aurelian Collin told me a few weeks ago, listen, especially being a part of the back line, you have to be so focused and not about the size of the pitch and being stable and keeping the line together as a unit. Because if you don't pay attention and you get a little bit too far forward or you don't get far enough, you're causing problems within the defensive midfield and the back line, which can cause problems and allow goals. And we've seen players like David Villa score plenty of goals at Yankee Stadium, and he is a master at finding just enough space in between lines or in between center backs or to the left or the right to be able to score goals. And when you look at a player like Tommy Redding, who had an unbelievable performance, having to mark David Villa, who's, if I'm not mistaken, the leading goal scorer in Spain's national team history, a player that young being able to go in there and stop him is just incredible. And I think Seb Hines did have some shaky moments, but they kept it together as a whole. They did a good job, and they left with the clean sheet. Joe Bendick had some amazing saves. And on the attack, again, we could have scored more goals. Kevin Molino had a sitter that he just didn't put in, which was not. Yeah, I know. Kaká was tweeting about that. He could have put that in. Carlos Rivas had had a look. We could have had a better result. We could have done better on the counterattack, but you just have to take what you got, and that's 3 points. So we left New York with 3 points, and we have to be satisfied with that.
And so in my thoughts on New York, obviously I'm satisfied with the result. I think going away and getting 3 points in any stadium, not only a funny one, is great. That's my first, touching point on the New York game. My second touching point that you didn't mention at all is I thought Higuita and Seren played out of their minds in that game. And, like he had mentioned, Bendick had a really nice, it was Bendick's best game in purple by a country mile, because Bendick's he's had his good and his bad moments here. I'm not going to say anything bad about the guy. He's only been here for 3 weeks playing time, and Hines hasn't had the most cohesion on the back line, really. But Higuita and Seren were unbelievable in New York. They sat there and they soaked up everything. And they distributed the ball well, going forward and leading to the creation of the chances. So I'm glad that you didn't mention it, because that was really what my takeaway was. I thought Higuita and Seren were really the players of the match. Off the field, for Orlando City in March was also a pretty big month. We signed Julio Baptista, as Ty mentioned earlier, who is going to come here and he's going to play striker for us, and maybe even some wing play depending on, injuries or cards or whatever. I think we'll mostly see him at striker. If he's coming to play, I think it's an excellent signing. We got him on a free transfer, which is really amazing. No one had a discovery claim on him or anything like that. DC. And also Notarino came in March. And then this is just the beginning off the field stuff. OCB played their first game in March, so that's our new USL team. It's like a feeder team, so to speak. They did lose last week, but they did play their first game, and it was good to have the USL back. It's some, homegrown kind of stuff going on there, because we were in the USL before we got moved up. And the Pride released their first look at their away kit. So that's our women's team that's new this year. And so lots of stuff going on off the field. Ty, what are your off the field thoughts about the club in March?
Well, obviously the signing of Julio Baptista, it was a giant move for Orlando City. And yes, he's an older player, but the most important thing about Julio Baptista is he has a lot of experience. You know, you're getting somebody who can come in and impact the game when he has experience playing for Real Madrid and Arsenal and Roma. Those are three of the bigger clubs in Europe. And what's important about a player like that is if he comes in the 60th or 70th minute and we need a goal, if he gets the ball in the box, he's going to shoot, and he's a good finisher, and he's going to score. And what's really important about that, and this is what Coach Heath mentioned the other day when I was talking to him, was, you know, if Kyle Larin would pull up with a hamstring injury against Portland and we don't have anybody behind him, they're going to be tested because, you know, Pedro Ribeiro has transitioned very well to the defensive midfielder position. And I think he's played very, very good so far at the D-mid. A striker, maybe not so much. I think he's a great finisher. He's got a lot of power behind the ball, and he's just one of those players. He's diverse. As striker, he plays with his back to the ball. Defensive midfielder, he's going forward. So it's just how you're going to utilize his strength. But going back to Baptista, he's going to be the type of player who is going to come in. He's going to be able to score goals when they call upon him. And that's the main reason why they signed him. Nocerino was a very important signing as well. And that's, again, it goes back to his diversity. It goes back to he can play multiple positions in the midfield. Last year, we had Lewis Neal playing absolutely everywhere in the midfield because we had no depth. And the team did a great job of finding depth this season. And if a player gets injured or there's a call-up where they're not available, we're going to have somebody to fill that role. The defensive midfield, like I said, is absolutely stacked. We have 5 players who have enough quality to start at that position. Going back to now OCB. OCB did play their first game last weekend. I thought they played very well. One thing about Ant Poulos, the head coach for OCB, is he's a stickler when it comes to organization and structure. And I saw that on the pitch. I saw a team who was very organized. Even though these players are so young, they understood their role. And again, they could have got a better result as well. I think Lewis Neal played phenomenally, and I think he's going to be a huge part of OCB this season. So I do think OCB is going to be a very competitive team in the USL Pro. When it comes to the Pride, they're blowing out every team in the preseason. Obviously, they're playing college teams, so you can't look at it too much. But they're going to be very good. I think Tom Sermani has done a fantastic job of putting a roster together that involves so much international talent. They're going to be very good. So again, you know, it's going to be a long year for all of these teams, but you know, looking forward to covering it all.
So that is our March in review. Again, I'm Sam, and I'm OC Lions fan _TV on Twitter. As you can see, it's like right there. And I am MLS's only fan TV. So if you don't have an MLS team and you're abroad and you want to watch some MLS fan TV, I'm your guy, the only one. Not going to say it's great. You know, I produce a lot of marginal content, but I'm okay with that. So, I mean, I try to get better week by week. I try to get better, but some of it is marginal. So that is what it is. Everybody has a beginning. I'm just in season 2. And Ty, one last time, where can you be found?
At Par Pundits on Twitter.
And your website?
ParamorePundits.com.
All right, and that's where you can get Ty. He's going to join me in these month in review videos. Thanks, guys. Peace out.